Welcome everyone this evening to our Albany City Council meeting. And would you like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mary, roll call, please.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kellum.
Here.
Kopsinski.
Here.
Clifford.
Here.
Well, we have a very special presentation this evening, and this is kind of the first for Albany. And this is from the West Albany High School, and it is a city flag proposal. So, Mr. Poliat, would you like to come forward and introduce your students and give us the presentation?
Yes, we'll have 5 students presenting today.
Okay.
They are all members of our association. We are the Greater Unified Albany Vexillological Association, or we like to call ourselves GUAVA. So they'll be coming up. I believe the PowerPoint's loaded up. How do I access that? And our president, Taylor Picorni, will be going first.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
There we go.
come on.
That must be the student flags.
How do you
Top right corner.
slideshow? Right? Do you know how to get it to? Do you know how to do the slideshow? Sorry, slideshow.
Down there, you click
This is
that little button.
There we go. Boy, all right.
Just whizzes at computers. Should have known it. We just
Teenager legal.
got a youth in the audience, you grab them for that computer.
Alright, I'm Taylor Picorni and I'm the president of GUAVA Club, and vexillology is the study of flags, and that's what we've been learning. I don't know. Do you just...
We need the
I
computer,
don't know where it's at.
the computer whiz kid again.
Yeah, just click enter.
Get that computer kid back up there.
Oh, okay.
Well,
It's not working.
it's not working. If you scroll down. Here.
There you
Okay.
go.
So, GUAVA is the Greater Unified Albany Vexillology Association, and we're just a group of individuals that have been getting together every Wednesday of a school day and creating a flag. What we hope to accomplish today is to demonstrate why a city flag is important and define what makes a good flag. We will have several flag proposals, and up next is Tanner, who will talk about it.
Hi, my name is Tanner Mills. I am the Vice President of GUAVA. Why do we need a flag? Often when city leaders say we have more important things to do than worry about a city flag, my response is if you had a great city flag, you would have a banner for people to rally under to face those more important things. This quote is from Ted Kaye, the writer of the book on creating flags. Imagine if we had a flag, one that we just saw everywhere on flagpoles, on the back of cars, in windows, everywhere. A flag we could identify with, one that we could be proud of, and that we would know to be part of Albany. Next up is Daniel Thompson, a member.
We have a few booklets for you. Friend of the group, Ted Kaye, who you just heard.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, we can share, no problem.
Not sure if them good flag, bad flag.
We don't really like.
Hang on to it.
All right, so as Tanner mentioned why we need a flag, I'm going to tell you how to design a great flag and what exactly entails in making a good flag. So first we'll go over what a flag's purpose is. A flag's purpose is to represent a place, organization, or person, and it's generally printed on a rectangular piece of cloth. It needs to be seen at a distance, often moving, and the symbols must be visible from both sides. It also must be reproduced in quantity, and it needs to make sense in various amount of sizes. So we could be able to print it on something very tiny, and it would still be legible and recognizable. So in those booklets, it goes over the 5 basic principles of flag design. Number 1, the flag should be so simple that a child would be able to draw it from memory. This is very important because if you're going to be able to have it memorized in your head and make it an actual symbol of your city, you're going to want it to be simple and recognizable. Number 2, you're going to want to use meaningful symbolism. The flag's images, colors, or patterns should relate to what it symbolizes. You want to make sure that the symbolism is very, very, very meaningful and represents your city well and doesn't become mishmashed in all the very generic flags. Number 3, use 2 to 3 basic colors. We do this to make the flag more cost-effective and to allow the flag to have contrast so it's more appealing to the eye. Number 4, no lettering or seals. Never use writing of any kind or an organization seal because that makes the flag look very messed up, and just printing down a name like South Dakota did, it's somewhat egotistical and a bit too on the nose. Number 5, be distinctive. Avoid duplicating other flags, but use similarities to show connections. So, for example, our flag for GUAVA is derivative of the Vexillological Association. And so we share a lot of the same patterns. And with Albany, other organizations would be able to borrow from that flag idea. So next up, we have our webmaster that we ironically call Spider-Man, Kyle, because Spider-Man shoots webs, in case you didn't know that.
My name is Kyle Smith. I am the webmaster for the Greater Unified Albany Vexillological Association. This is some data from a survey of 400 respondents from the United States and Canada about the different principles of flag design. It has a correlation coefficient of 0.81, which means that it lines up well with the having the more principles successfully shown on the flag. The flag gets more appealing to the eye. Here are some good city flags. For example, we have Washington, D.C. on the top left, followed by Chicago, which has 2 blue lines symbolizing the rivers, as well as the 4 red stars, which symbolize major events in Chicago's history. Following that, we have Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, St. Louis, Missouri, and Wichita, Kansas. Here are some not so great city flags. We have Pocatello, Idaho, which has a copyright from the Pocatello Chamber of Commerce. Milwaukee, San Francisco, City of Detroit, Huntington, West Virginia, and this Rapid City, South Dakota. Here are a few local city flags, including Salem, Portland, and Corvallis. Next up, we have Louis with some flag proposals.
Hi, so I'm Luis Morales. I'm the treasurer of GUAVA, and this would be our typical city flag if we just didn't know anything about flags. If we just went on a website and just put stuff together like, this is Albany. And so, oh, there's a flag within a flag. That's already a bad sign. So our actual proposal is this flag. This has been the basis of our most of our flags for most of our attempt to try and make a flag for City of Albany. And so the symbolism about this flag is that the A automatically is supposed to represent Albany, and we sort of try to make it so it curves like the way we have our logos for our parks and our rivers, our logos for the rivers and the parks. Then the blue, of course, is supposed to represent the Calpuya and the Willamette rivers and how they come together to make just the one big Willamette River crossing our bridge. And so when the area where it goes over, the gray portion, is how it goes over the I-5 and the Highway 20. And then the green portion is just supposed to represent how green the city is. It's known for its agriculture, timber city. It's just a really green place, and I know from experience because I didn't grow up here, so coming here was very green. And then the top of our A is reminiscent of sort of like the stars of the American flag, because we measured with a protractor, and it's the same angle as each point in one of the stars. And then also the green could be representative of how, if you were to put the blue and yellow of Oregon together, it makes a green color. And so that's another sort of related. It's related to Oregon rather than just being like its own thing. And then we also represented blue and gray with the fact that West Albany is a blue and golden high school, while South Albany is gray and red. So we took one color from each school and we put them together, blue and gray. And so these are other like color variations of the same design. We try to incorporate more red, white, and blue, or just different color variations for each color. And then we also have design variations, and so we still try to keep with the A for the first design variation, and then with the second one we try to go with like the South African flag. And then the third one, we just like the idea of the fact that the Calpui and the Willamette came together to form one river. And so from these proposals, we would like to have your guys' opinion over this. We don't exactly know how we're going to choose which flag or what design, what color scheme. And so our first ideas were like just a contest, flag proposal contest, or a petition, or just like a choosing of your guys. But we are willing to work with anything you guys like to try out, like the petition, or just a different idea you guys have in general, or if you guys have any other ideas for flags. That'd be nice. And we're willing to work with anything you guys can let us work with. And we'd also like to give special thanks to the Portland Flag Association, the North American Flag Association, Ted K for that good quote, Roman Mars, GUAVA, and just West Albany, and also you guys for giving us your great time.
Great. Wonderful. Yeah. So council, as you can see, I was quite impressed when the students had me come to their classroom and showed me this proposal. And I had no idea there'd be so much thought in how you can design a flag. So with that, did you have any questions of the students? Yeah, Ray?
Do you have a similar organization in your neighbor's high school?
We don't know if South Albany has a similar association. We haven't really talked to them. So, yeah, that is a good thought. Yeah.
Almost mandatory.
Yeah, Bessie?
Yeah, I just want to say that years ago, when my husband was county commissioner, he asked the high schools to do presentations of flag idea, and that's how the Lynn County flag came about. And so, I mean, I think this is a great idea, that we should have one, and I appreciate you telling us that there's an A in there, because I kept reading it, but I didn't turn it over, and I thought, okay, what's this for, you know, and what is it? But now I can see the A, so that it's not, but yeah, you guys put a lot of work into it, and don't know how we're going to choose or what it's going to be, but I think it's a great idea.
Well, this is just the first step. They're looking for other ideas
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
participation to help make it happen.
You bet.
Let loose that creativity.
Yeah. I think Bill had a question, then we'll...
Oh, I'm just,
yeah.
like Bessie, very impressed with the thought that went into it, and it makes a lot of sense now. You explain the colors and so forth. One of the ideas, and actually it was Sharon's idea, was that possibly we put it on the city website and let citizens vote on it. So that might be one option.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
And/or city bridges.
Well, somebody has to say it, but I was thinking along the same lines as Bill, that perhaps we could use the website as a vehicle and sort of run it up the flagpole, if you will. And see
Oh, that's good.
That would be an option.
Yeah,
You know.
that actually would be a great idea, and I don't think we would mind it, Pouliot.
Yeah.
So I think we could work with that.
If your web guy gets with our web guy, then
And we have like our city Facebook page, we can put it out and have people to vote, to go on the
Oh, yeah,
website and then vote on it too, but.
All right.
Yeah, is that something
Great.
or
No.
council like or Rich?
no.
More inclusive would be good. I mean, let's understand, there are 2 high schools and a whole bunch of middle schools, and there's LBCC, and there are regular folks. Some of which have absolutely no talent, and some of them are like you folks. So I'd say let's broaden the request so that more people have a shot. You know, of these, what do you like, and if there is someone who could contact the other school, I mean, you probably, I realize your ears burn if you call that other entity on the other side of town, but.
Oh, I'm actually very good friends with most of those people over there.
I'd say that would be maybe first, is give a challenge.
Right, or even putting this on our website just to kind of, you know, get the interest and just say, is there other options too, and reach out to South Albany and maybe, you know, see if they're wanting to propose something, but, I mean, that is something we can kind of broaden it if we put it on the website. But Cole?
Yeah, the city of Milwaukee is currently going through this process, and they had an open call for flags, and then we could create a timeline where there's a deadline for submissions, and then we could have a period where we could review them and narrow the field to maybe like a top 4 or 5, and then we could bring those and either have people vote on them on the website, or maybe the council could vote on them, or however you'd like to do that. That's one way of doing it. I feel like that's more inclusive, and that would involve anyone that wants to propose, from a child to any member. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That'd be a good option.
I'll go out on a limb, seeing we're seeing this for the first time. I'm willing to contribute $100 to a prize fund for any design that is actually adopted by the city of Albany, to the designer thereof.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Yeah, that'll really spark some interest, so, yeah. Floyd, did you have a question or
no,
not?
I agree with the process he outlined.
Okay, yeah. So I think we will get started. I mean, this is great that the students put all this work into this, and this will be able to kind of move forward, and Albany might eventually have our own city flag. So this is exciting, but and I'm so very grateful for all of you taking on this project. So this will be a wonderful, wonderful addition to the city. So.
Thanks for your work.
Okay, all right.
So,
great.
Yeah.
As long as you're here, any discussion in your club or thoughts on the state of Oregon flag being somewhat unique?
The state of Oregon flag is the only state flag that has an image on both sides, which makes it more costly to reproduce. It also has a seal on it, or what vexillologists like to call a seal on a bed sheet, which kind of has a nice acronym as well. But so it would score very poorly, I think, on the 5 principles of good flag design. There's actually been some movements to redesign the Oregon city flag, but none of them have been fruitful.
And what did you say about the South Dakota flag?
South Dakota is also just a seal that's placed onto a. See, seals are supposed to be seen up close.
Yes.
And so they're very intricate. A flag is supposed to be seen at a distance.
Okay.
One of the things that we talk about, one of the rules is if you can put it on a 1 by 1.5 inch rectangle, that's about the same size that you see when it's flying in the breeze from about 50 feet. So that's a good way of thinking about design.
Okay, thanks.
Floyd suggested that I could be the contact for the city on this, and just by way of a suggestion to maybe lobby the state, what we might want to do is ask that they replace the seal with a duck so that we have equal time.
Or on the other side.
Something for target practice, right?
And we don't want to have the flag filled with holes.
Had you not already announced your retirement, I think we'd be talking later.
Thanks a lot,
all right.
guys.
I think
That's
we will get
great.
moving forward, and I want to thank you so much.
Pretty
Great
cool.
presentation. So thank you.
Good job, Cole.
Maybe we could have a roasted duck on the.
That's not a roasted beaver, yeah. Okay. Next on our agenda, this is a proclamation. This is Historic Preservation Month for May 2016. Whereas Albany is well known for its large and varied collection of historic buildings that date from the 1840s through the 1950s. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for economic development, promoting tourism, revitalizing neighborhoods, creating livable and sustainable communities, fostering local pride, and creating community character. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role history and tangible aspects of heritage have in shaping our lives and communities now and in the future. And whereas This Place Matters is a 2016 theme of National Historic Preservation Month celebrated across America and sponsored by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And whereas Historic Preservation Month provides an opportunity for citizens of all ages and backgrounds to celebrate the special places that are meaningful to them and their communities, and the importance of preservation and its place in all of our lives. Now therefore, I, Sharon Canopa, Mayor of the City of Albany, Oregon, do hereby proclaim the month of 2016 as Historic Preservation Month. And I encourage all citizens to take time this month to appreciate Albany's many historic resources and to participate in activities celebrating our heritage. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Albany to be affixed this 27th day of April 2016. And with that, in council, and this is also would be online, we have a 2-page list of all the events for May in celebrating our Historic Preservation Month. There's actually even some new events. There's going to be a Downtown Art and Jazz Festival that's going to be presented by the Albany Downtown Association. And actually, there's also the 3rd Annual Vintage Bicycle Show and Swap Meet presented by Deluxe Brewing. So there is a whole list of great activities. There's going to be the Albany Train, the National Train Day again, which is on Saturday, May 7th, and that was a great event last year. Very well attended. So I hope everybody can kind of check out all the lists for the activities in May. All right, next we have is another proclamation. This is Mental Health Month, May 2016. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all people experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas promotion and prevention are effective ways to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there is a strong body of research that supports user-friendly tools that all people can access to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government agency, faith-based organization, healthcare provider, veterans group, and community member has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And whereas the Lynn County Mental Health Advisory Board is emphasizing that there is no health without mental health, by being involved with public service announcements, health fairs, public speakers, and various trainings regarding mental health issues. Now therefore, I, Sharon Canopa, Mayor of the City of Albany, Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 2016 as Mental Health Month in Albany, Oregon, and I also call upon the citizens, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Albany to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Albany to be affixed this 27th day of April 2016. And with that, we are fortunate this evening to be able to have Lynn County's Health Administrator, Mr. Frank Moore. So, Frank, would you like to say a few words?
I'll be quick. We've got a pretty full agenda tonight. I want to thank the City Council and the City of Albany Human Relations Commission for routinely contacting me and my department on an annual basis to help recognize May as Mental Illness Month, Mental Health Month, and October, the first week in October, which is also Mental Illness Awareness Week, I think it's with that kind of support that we're able to raise the awareness of the community that statistically 1 in 4 individuals will have some bout with major mental illness at some point in their lifetime. Would also want to say that the changes that have happened in the healthcare delivery system in the last probably 3 or 4 years with the Oregon Health Transformation have dramatically increased our ability to provide prevention and promotion services. I think that's due directly, 1, to the commitment of staff within my department and support from people like you and like the City of Albany Human Relations Commission, but I also want to note that in the new world under the health transformation, much of what we do is directly related to the trust and the support that we get from the Intercommunity Health Network Coordinated Care Organization, which serves Benton, Lynn, and Lincoln counties. Historically, I've been doing this since 1974. I'm not going to count how many years that is, but up until the advent of coordinated care organizations in this state, the notion of prevention and health promotion when it comes to mental health and mental illness issues has been, from a funding standpoint, an oxymoron. And I think that because of the support and the funding that we've been provided by the Intercommunity Health Network, we've been able to do things like put on mental health first aid classes in Lynn County. We began that. We brought that 8-hour class to Lynn County in May of 2014. Since then, we have trained over 500 individuals. Lynn County residents, many who work, including paramedics, people like George from the homeless shelter, people who work with the Jackson Street Youth Shelter, the Boys and Girls Clubs, basically helps people recognize the signs and symptoms, gives them the ability or skills to be able to help intervene and seek appropriate help. I think that's huge. I've not seen that in my career, and again, I think that's something that will help us move forward in normalizing the notion that it's not just other people who are impacted by mental health or mental illness issues, and like I said, I'm grateful for your support and that of the Human Relations Commission. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions of Frank? Yep, thank you, Frank. So. And actually, also, Frank, want to recognize Annie McDonald. So she's the case manager for Albany Partnership. She's here in the audience and for housing, and she also is the case manager for one of the houses for your clients that we house there. So she does a great job, and she really appreciates the partnership with mental health too. So yeah. Yeah.
It is a free class. We offer it, you can find it on our website, so you can find out there's versions for veterans, older adults, we have a higher ed version, we have one for people who work with youth, and a version for adults. We also do one for law enforcement.
We are so fortunate to have you here in our region, so you do a fantastic job. So thank you, Frank. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. Sorry, Annie, putting you on the spot there. Yeah. Okay. Ann, so would you like to do well, let me open up the public hearing at 7:43 p.m., and this would be over our Community Development Block Grant Program. So, Ann, you do the staff report?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Ann Catlin. I work in the Community Development Department and manage the Community Development Block Grant Programs for the City of Albany. These are federal funds that come through the Department of Housing and Urban Development to do community development kinds of projects and services within the community. Program objectives include decent housing, a suitable living environment, and thinking inside a house and in your neighborhoods, and expanding economic opportunities. And the purpose of tonight is to hold a public hearing on the plan that the Community Development Commission prepared for funding for this next fiscal year starting July 1st. And we have a few minor amendments to move projects around and some earlier plans, but also to hear from the community if there are needs in the community that we haven't heard about that could be supported with these federal dollars, and also to hear about our performance. So I just thought I would zip through some of the programs that we'll be offering this year and some of the things we have done. So we do have a 5-year plan. We're in year 4. This would be year 4 of the 5-year plan, and the 5-year plan outlines several goals, and all of the programs that have been funded or projects try to address one or more of these goals. Providing decent, safe, affordable housing, reducing homelessness, removing blighting influence in our low-income neighborhoods, expanding economic opportunities for our low-income residents, removing barriers to accessibility, ADA improvements, that kind of thing, providing public services to our low-income and special needs residents, and affirmatively furthering fair housing. So next year, to address the goal of decent housing, we have a few programs that will hopefully reduce homelessness, and they are mostly public service programs. There will be funding going to Jackson Street for case management and mentoring to help our homeless and at-risk youth. About 30 youth are expected to be served. Then Helping Hands will be hiring somebody to provide employment services to really work with their chronically homeless and long-term homeless residents there to help them gain job skills and get back into the workforce. And then Family Tree Relief Nursery has been doing an infant intervention program which works with families that are at high risk for infant abuse, and the specialist goes into the house and really works with families to prevent child abuse and prevent placement in foster care. Furthering fair housing, we try to offer education and outreach opportunities to train both residents about fair housing laws as well as our landlords, and then we respond to complaints and as we hear about them, and we're doing what we can to address some of the conditions that people are living in related to fair housing and how they may be treated. And then this year we will be preparing our next 5-year fair housing analysis, so there'll be a lot of community outreach and a lot of work going into that. And as far as improving our affordable housing supply, we have a balance of remaining funds from previous years due to some turnover with Community Services Consortium, who manages that program. But we switched the program to a grant program, and we do have a few houses in works right now, but we don't have any new funding going to that, but we should spend the rest of the remaining funds over the next year. Suitable living environment, we heard from the community, especially residents in the Sunrise area, that Sunrise Park could really be overhauled, and so this has been our big project, and it's been delayed by wetlands, but we have put funding into the next fiscal year, and one of the amendments, or the primary purpose of the amendments before you tonight, is because of this delay, we want to move some project orders around. But Sunrise Park, once we hear more about the wetlands, we've submitted the removal and fill permit, then we hope to completely redo that park with a parking lot, so it'll be ADA accessible, have all new play equipment and safe lighting, et cetera. The Dave Clark Path curb ramps, the remaining ones that need to be installed will be installed this year with funds. And then infill sidewalk and curb ramps around the Sunrise Park and school area. We have a lot of intermittent sidewalk there and unsafe walking conditions for residents and students, and multiple years of funding will kind of work to improve these walking paths and areas that are in our low-income neighborhoods. Then expanding economic opportunities. Youth Build will be able to hire a crew leader to continue the program in Albany, and they hope to have at least 6 young adults enter the program from Albany. And what they do is train these residents in construction industry jobs and skills, and then they really work with them to try to get jobs in that industry. They learn weatherization and things like that. Then we have been supporting a microenterprise program at Lynn Benton Community College that has multiple stages. There's a Foundations of Business course, and then there's a Small Business Management course, and they also offer one-on-one advising. And we have a balance of funds that will continue to offer those programs for free for our Albany low-income residents. And then the city has a small pot of money to offer small business grants to low-income business owners that will create a new job, and so this helps offset costs to create new jobs for low-income residents. So that kind of summarizes what we'll be working on this year, and I mentioned the plan amendments. We have the purpose of amending our first two plans, the 13-14 and 14-15 fiscal year plans, is to take funding that was dedicated to Sunrise Park and keep it in public improvements, but broaden that description to include infill sidewalks and curb ramps and a little more general community development needs, so that we can spend the money as quickly as possible. And we expect to actually construct a sidewalk on 19th Avenue this summer and would use those funds. And HUD's goal and our goal is to close out those first 2 years so we don't have this remaining balance, and that the Sunrise Park wetlands has hung up the funding there. But we have made sure to set aside enough funding in the current 15-16 plan that we're operating under, and in this new plan that's before you, so that we can complete that park remodel, hopefully also this year. So a lot of the programs I just described have been ongoing, and so just to recap some of the things that we've done, we have been doing low-income housing rehabilitation. 4 homes were complete. We have 5 in the application process or in works. We helped Jackson Street acquire their Albany shelter, and we helped Albany Helping Hands acquire 2 transitional houses. We also have sponsored several fair housing trainings. And then for public services, this is really where I think we are doing so much. We've served 405 low-income, and I mean mostly at 30% or below, low-income residents with services and needs throughout the community, and trying to improve their lives, whether they get emergency housing assistance or receive counseling or can get their GED. A variety of different programs have done a lot of good things. And the folks over at Lynn Bent Community College have helped the money has helped 50 Albany residents enroll in courses there or get free one-on-one advising, and we've created 18 jobs through these efforts. And then the city grants, we've issued and completed 3, have created 3 jobs. Eliminating blighting influences, we're still waiting for Sunrise Park, but we did complete the Periwinkle Path replacement north of Queen, and we have got the 19th Avenue infill sidewalks. It's already underway in Public Works, and we hope to, it's in the queue, so we hope that will get done soon. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions now or later.
Okay, I'm going to just state I have a conflict. I'm going to recuse myself because I just started back work part-time for Community Services Consortium, and they're a direct recipient. I will say that they just announced this afternoon in Salem that CSC is now fully funded for adult youth services again, so.
Great. Okay. So,
all right.
I can come back up if you have questions, or if you have questions now.
I guess a question of clarification.
Yeah.
You said that you wanted to spend the money as quickly as possible. And while I understood, it was that you wanted to spend the money on needed projects as soon as possible. It wasn't actually said, so there might be someone in the greater audience that wouldn't have heard that. Just to leave that as a clarification.
Let me clarify. So we have remaining funds in the 13-14 and 14-15 fiscal years dedicated to Sunrise Park, and because we've been working with the neighborhood and they're really excited to have improvements in that neighborhood, we would like to put the money towards other public improvements in the area that were planned out, but just move those up because we can actually complete them without having to worry about waiting on wetlands or some unknowns about the wetlands and the cost of mitigation and the timing that we have to deal with. So it's really actually just scheduling that through the Public Works Department, and then we're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul, sort of. We're just trying to take projects that we had identified for this year and fund them with remaining funds, so that then once Sunrise Park wetland issues are resolved, that we can move full steam ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And we have a couple of our commission members here.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. Karen.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen Cardoza, and then Chris Equinoa is on the Community Development Block Grant Commission. And our former task force, Donna, was on, so, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. So with that, we are in a public hearing. So is there anyone that would like to come forward and talk about the action plan or the amendment to the action plan? Okay, not seeing anyone. All right, and any questions before I close the public hearing? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 7:55 p.m. Okay, council. Actually, you do have 3 separate resolutions. You can do all of this in one motion if you're ready for that, which would be a resolution on page 12, 41, and 49. What would you like to do with this item?
Move adoption of the resolutions on 12, 41, and 49.
Second.
Okay, and any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried, so that's 5-1 with Ray is abstaining. Okay.
Actually, Ray did not abstain.
Yeah,
He was not present.
He was not present, though.
Do we need to also do 4 and 5?
On which page?
Yeah, on page 10. I'd move we authorize the requested action under items number 4 and 5 on page 10.
Oh, gotcha, yeah. And you still needed that done on 4 and 5?
Authorize the middle of the grant.
Right.
Okay, all right. You made that as a motion, Ray, or Floyd?
Second.
Okay, and a second, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right. Is that it, Ann? Did we take care of it all?
I didn't have that page.
She has all these
There-
legalities to
there's,
follow when it comes to HUD. so.
With the application, there are certifying documents that are at the end of your packet about some policies that we already have in place of the city that the mayor just needs to sign and submit. So it's sort of part of the application. If
That's
you
what
feel
number
that
4
covered
does.
it. Number 4. Mhm.
Yeah, we did that.
You just did 4?
that.
Okay, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you did 5 or 4. Okay.
Yeah,
4 and 5.
Sorry, thank you.
yeah, the motion was what you had in your report for 4 and 5, so I think that should have taken care of it. Yeah, okay. Great, I think we're set on that. Okay, next, on tonight's agenda is a quasi-judicial public hearing regarding planning file BC 0115. The applicant is the Historic Carousel and Museum. I call to order this public hearing at 7:58 p.m. And if you wish to testify, please sign in at the table next to the meeting, our city clerk. And do any members wish to declare a conflict of interest? And do any members wish to report any ex parte contact? Well, I think probably all of us have heard about the carousel project for a long time.
On this
so,
particular thing.
Yeah. Do any members wish to report a site visit? And I think all of us have been around,
Yes.
so. And do any members wish to abstain from participating in the proceedings? Okay. And does anyone wish to challenge a city council's right to determine this matter or the participation of any councilor in this hearing and decision? All right. For all those wishing to testify, please be aware that you must raise an issue with enough detail to afford the council and parties an opportunity to respond to the issue if you later want to raise that issue on appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards approval standards staff will describe or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to the decision. If additional documents or evidence are provided by any party, the City Council may allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. Any continuance or extension of the record requested by the applicant shall result in a corresponding extension to the 120-day limit. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with enough detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So at this time, I'll call for a staff report. Planner Melissa Anderson.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. So tonight's the public hearing, and this is for the street vacation for just a portion of First Avenue. And this street vacation is to accommodate the proposed carousel, but this evening we're not evaluating the carousel project. That is being processed as a separate land use application under a site plan review process. So tonight it's just for the street vacation. This process, type 4 process, and our criteria is the vacation, street vacation criteria under Albany Development Code 2.630. The City Council initiated this on May 27th, 2015 to initiate the process. And in February, there was a newspaper notice, also direct mailing and posting notice of this in accordance with state and local laws. And then in March, the Planning Commission held a public hearing, and they recommended to the City Council to approve the vacation. And so tonight we have the final decision before the City Council. So this site is in downtown Albany, near here. North of that is the Monteith Park. The post office is just south of the project, and it's bounded by First Avenue and Washington Street and Calapooya. And that illustrates the location in red there. This is a close-up of the site where the existing building is, and this shows where just a portion of the First Avenue is proposed to be vacated. And this shows how the proposed building overlays on that site, and where the vacated portion of the street would accommodate the carousel mechanism and building. And this is also a nice picture illustrating the elevation of the exterior of the building as you're standing at the corner of First and Washington. In summary, the vacation, this proposed vacation, it is contingent on the carousel project going forward. So the ordinance is written such that the vacation would be in effect when the certificate of occupancy is issued to the carousel project. If for any reason it never went forward, this street vacation would expire after about 5 years. There's no utilities within this portion of the street, so we don't need any easements. Also, the proposal and how will modify the street, and narrowing the road and having angled parking is actually, that design is consistent with what is envisioned in our transportation system plan, so there's consistency with that. In the staff analysis, all vacation criteria have been met. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to the City Council to approve the proposal. And so that ends the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to do my best to answer that.
Questions? Okay. Rich?
Do you know the value of that amount of square footage in downtown?
The value of the street?
The value of the property that we're vacating?
No, I don't know the value of that street right-of-way that we're vacating, no. At the same time, I don't think that I think it's standard that there's not a fee for vacations, you know, that.
No, wasn't thinking in terms of a fee, just the fact that we're giving undoubtedly thousands of dollars, and if we're going to give it, we ought to get credit for it, all. The attaboy credit, not money.
When I was dealing with acquiring right-of-way or getting rid of right-of-way, it was in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 a square foot.
Mm-hmm. Multiplied by however many square feet there are.
Right.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Well, the mayor has asked me to explain on with public right-of-way is not land that is deeded to the city. It's really not land that the city owns. It is land over which the city has an easement for the benefit of the public. And so when we vacate property, we are simply lifting our easement, and the property then reverts back to the owner. For example, when a citizen has a sidewalk across the front of their property, it is in the right-of-way, but because the property is owned by the citizen, it's still part of their property. The city has ordinances requiring the citizen to maintain their property. So technically speaking, when we vacate property, when the city vacates property, I stand corrected, you are simply lifting the easement.
Yeah, but we're giving them the value because they can now use it. If at some point they said, we're going to move and we're going to sell this property and get another one, they would then have a more square footage to sell.
That's correct. It would be free of the city's
Usable.
easement.
Right. And we have vacated property, city right-of-way, many times over the years, but we've never charged anybody for the vacation of that.
Mayor, I'm not asking that they be charged.
Right.
I'm simply asking that recognition be given that
It's a
they are
value.
giving a value.
Okay. So, okay. Any other questions, Bessie?
Yeah, and maybe I missed this all along, but I was just noticing that this project will create an always stop at Washington and 2nd Avenue. So I was just wondering, will this, what we're going to be giving away, what's going to happen with Washington and First? Is this still going to stay the same stop sign, or is it going to be different? And then, I guess I'm wondering why the always stop on 2nd. I mean, it probably is another, maybe a subject for another talk, but I never noticed that there was going to be an always stop at 2nd, and I wondered if this had anything to do with that, and why.
Got wrong here. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
It says on Washington and 2nd, it's an all-way, oh, there's Rob.
Well, always only 3 ways, not one way.
The vacation itself won't trigger conversion of either of those two intersections to an all-way stop.
Okay.
But the TSP project that's in your transportation plan that creates angled parking around the post office, that plan does envision all-way stops at both Washington and 2nd and Washington and 1st. And so at the point in time when construction starts on the carousel and the portion of 1st Avenue next to them is narrowed to 1 lane, that probably would be the point in time where we'd create an always stop. There's been quite a bit of requests from citizens in the past for an always stop there, primarily coming from residents that are northbound on Washington headed primarily to the senior center. And from that they would pull up to the intersection. Traffic that's conflicting with them on 1st Avenue is through with no stop sign. The corner of the building where Sybaris Restaurant is very close, difficult to see around, poor sight distance. We haven't had a crash pattern there, which is why we've been reluctant to convert it, but the sight distance problem is pretty real. And so once we have just one through lane on 1st, that seemed to be the right time to make the conversion. So it's likely that when the construction starts on the carousel and the road's narrowed, that would probably be the point in time where you'd see an always stop on 1st. You wouldn't see an always stop at Washington and 2nd until the balance of that street system plan envisioned by the TSP goes into effect.
That makes sense, yeah, and I can understand the going north on Washington to the senior center, yeah, because you can wait there for a long time sometimes.
And we have had a crash history at 2nd and Washington, which is kind of the reason for making an always stop there.
Great, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, okay, thank you. And so we will now take testimony from the applicant. And would the applicant like to come forward and then state your name and address and make any comments you may have for the council? Dr. Gobi.
Gary Gobi, what's left of him today. It's been a busy time. Appreciate your cooperation with all that's going on with this. We're really excited about moving ahead and just want this to kind of get out of the way so that we don't have this to face with all the other things that we're looking at right now. Welcome any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions? So,
I can tell you, Rich, that there was a $2,100 permit for that bump out, so we did pay something for it.
Did that come out of our, did that come out of Kara's money?
It came out of my pocket first, but eventually it will come out of yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I still didn't ask you for money.
Yeah.
No matter how many people think it was, no, I didn't ask for money.
Yeah, Dr. Gobi, you've been contributing a lot, so we greatly appreciate it, so yeah. Okay. All right, with that, we will take public testimony. Is there anyone here that would like to testify on this application? All right, not seeing anyone. And then is there anybody that wants to speak in neutral, opposition? Okay. All right. With that, there won't be any rebuttal needed from the applicant. And does any staff member wish to respond anymore? Okay. With that, then, I declare the public hearing closed at 8:10 p.m.
Title of the ordinance.
Yep, that would be great.
This is an ordinance vacating a portion of the First Avenue right-of-way in Albany, Oregon.
I'll make a motion the ordinance be read a second time in title only.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, second reading.
An ordinance vacating a portion of the First Avenue right-of-way in Albany, Oregon.
I'll make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. So, great. Okay, so within 5 days of the decision, the Community Development Director will provide written notice of the decision to the applicant and any other parties entitled to notice. A decision of the City Council may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals by filing a notice of intent to appeal not later than 21 days after the decision becomes final. Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Gobi. Got the go-ahead and looking forward to that building being built, so thank you. Okay, next is business from the public. Is there anyone here that would like to bring an item forward? Okay. All right, okay, Tom?
Tom Cordier, 2240 Northwest Park Terrace in Albany. On the 19th of April, I filed an initiative petition to repeal Ordinance 5869, which was passed on the 13th of April. That ordinance creates a stormwater utility. And it's interesting, the ordinance, because it's an ordinance, was passed as an ordinance, that means it's a legislative issue and can be challenged by a referendum petition. The council, it says in the ordinance that the council has determined there is an inadequate funding to meet the requirements. What is not stated is the funding that's needed, and that the regulations are yet to be imposed, so what will need to be done has not been determined. Because the city is more lenient, more time lenient for referendum petition signature gathering than state law, I'll have 90 days to collect approximately 2,900 validated signatures, which is 10% of the voters at the time I filed the referendum petition. my perception is that that is a very easy task to do. My concern is that if the ordinance stands, the administrative costs will increase in the city to administer this new public utility, and the fee schedules will be established and they will be passed by resolution. And a resolution cannot be challenged by a referendum petition. So now my perception is that now is the only time to file the referendum petition against this ordinance, because it does not lay out any fee schedule, any principles of how it's going to be administered, no indication about the administrative costs. And I understand members of the council have talked about how to manage those administrative costs. So the question is, how do we keep voters engaged in the decision-making process as to fees and administrative costs? As you know, I am familiar with the principle that initiative and referendum petitions cannot be filed against administrative decisions. They can only be filed against legislative decisions, which the ordinance qualifies for. So you may know, for disclosure purposes, my co-chief petitioner, Skeet, and I met with both city attorneys roughly a week ago and discussed this issue at length. So I don't want to be perceived as just the no guy. So I'm proposing that the council would provide assurances, hopefully in some written form, that the fees and administrative costs, when they are understood and when they are available, because the requirements haven't been established yet, when they are available, would be done by ordinance only, not by resolution. That way, the citizens can have a voice if they don't like the fee schedule, if they don't like the administrative costs. And if the council will do that, I will terminate the referendum petition, which I can do at any time with no damage. And so I'm hoping that you'll understand that I'm not trying to get the city to not be in compliance with state and federal requirements. Though that's what the ordinance says, is we have these requirements. Well, guess what? You have those requirements whether you pass this ordinance or not. Those requirements are there to NPDS and clean water and all that stuff. They're not invoked just because this ordinance got passed. They've been there all along and will continue to be there even if this ordinance is turned down. And so I don't want to be characterized as saying, well, this guy doesn't want us to meet federal regulations. Wrong. That's not my impetus at all. I'm concerned about growing bureaucracies that are accountable to no one, and so I offer that as a proposal because I have a ballot title that I received today which I cannot agree with, and I understand that it's difficult to write a ballot title for this fuzzy thing that the ordinance did. I know that. And so one of the ways out of the box is to agree going forward that when, because the ballot title says here, any subsequent stormwater utility fees would have to be adopted by the Albany City Council. True. But what it doesn't say is what kind of method will be used to adopt. You could adopt a resolution or you could adopt an ordinance. So I've tried to frame that the best way I know how, and I look forward to, if you have some discussion now that you would like me to participate in, I'd be glad to do that. Otherwise, questions?
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else from business from the public? Okay, not seeing anyone. And next is adoption of a resolution, and this is one that's on page 71. This is over the red flex traffic systems. Did you have questions of the chief? He's coming forward. And Lieutenant.
Going to stay.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. What you have before you is a special procurement for continuing our current contract that we have with Red Flex. So our goal here is not to change anything that's in the current language. It's to keep with the same contract with the same company, but using a special procurement procedure, being that we've already gone beyond the current contract. Red Flex has been very good to work with. I know there's been a lot of stuff publicly, and I think we've received several emails from people out of state complaining about Red Flex. When I was going to be the traffic lieutenant in my former agency, we had 34 traffic control systems there for photo safety by another vendor. Our first year loss was $1 million because the program was not managed correctly and the contract was not written appropriately such that the city wouldn't lose any money. The goal for photo safety is not to generate or lose money, but it's for traffic safety. But with that also, you also want to be good stewards of the program and the funds to try to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. A lot of times you'll have issues with the equipment, and if the vendor, and depending on how your contract's written, if the vendor isn't coming out to fix that on a timely basis, you could have issues that generate from that where you lose revenue that you're responsible for. So that was the issues we had before with another company. With Red Flex and the way the current contract is written, the city will never lose any money, and it's not there to generate money, but it's there for traffic safety. So what I wanted to show is kind of currently how we are doing a lot of our traffic enforcement now. We post this on our website every ComStat period, so every 28 days we'll post a new picture on our website for the citizens to see. But we update this once a week, and we review this with patrol so they know where our top accident intersections are that we're currently having issues for them to work enforcement. So photo safety is only one part of the tool in the toolbox. It's not something that I'm going to be able to say, okay, because I put this camera here, I've been able to affect X. It's more that as a part of the picture along with enforcement, because when we look at our manpower, we have, usually about 7 officers on the street any one time. And we currently have 1 traffic officer, but I'm getting ready to put him in patrol at the end of the month because we don't have enough officers to cover patrol until we can get some more people through field training. So traffic enforcement relies heavily on patrol. And because of that, when you look at some of the intersections we have, and you look at collisions themselves and why they occur, it's more of a complex issue. It's sometimes it's engineering design, sometimes it could be the way there's too much traffic flow for that intersection. The intersection can't feed the traffic through fast enough, so sometimes you have people that'll run red lights and they'll cause collisions. So there's a lot of factors that play into that. I would like to show currently where our some videos of our current camera system that we have. So this one here is going to be Gary looking south, and all these videos are from last year, from 2015. So to give you an idea that this is currently occurring. So when you look at this one, you'll see someone come all the way across, not even stop for the red light, and go through the intersection. So that's one. This one here is Gary looking south, and this one's actually a collision that occurred.
Can't see the light in these.
Light's
And on
red.
the top.
Ooh,
Ooh.
look at the very top.
Oh.
So that's all. These are red light runners.
Can't see when the light's red because it's out of the picture.
It's at the very top.
Right at the top.
If you look at the very top, you can see right up here. You can see the red light.
It's a light.
It just went red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There he went.
Wow.
Other one.
It's red. They just drove through and turned.
my
Right there.
Yeah, it kind of turned green.
And here's a pedestrian one.
Different lights there.
You watch a pedestrian trying to walk across and doesn't even stop, just goes right through. So those are the current issues that we're having there. When you look at our data for 2015, our number one collision intersection is Queen and Gary. There was 11. Now, you have to take that with the data that we get from ODOT is about a year away, so we don't have their 2015 data. If someone gets in an accident and they exchange information, they don't have to report that to the police department, but they're required to report that to the state. So we don't always know the total number of collisions that occurred at any particular intersection. Usually the injury ones we know about. And the highest injury intersection is Waverly and Santiam. And the next one is Waverly and Grand Prairie. And then Gary and Queen comes in the third. When we're looking at the number of citations that are issued, when the program started, and then back in 2008, the intersection had 1,119 citations issued in the first year. Currently now we're averaging about 500 a year, and that's been consistent for the last 3 years. And as far as any money that's been coming into the city, we only pay Red Flex when the citation has been fully paid. So currently we're about $37,000 for this fiscal year. So that's about 27 average paid tickets per month, when we're issuing about 42 out tickets per month for violations.
How much per ticket?
$260. That's a state-based fine that we have no control over that.
Are there any questions?
No, could you possibly go back to your crime, the stats there that you had on how many accidents, or
The map?
yeah? Was that just for 1 month?
Yes, that's 1 month.
Wow, that's quite a bit then.
The
Citywide.
ones that are in black, the solid square, those are injuries,
Mhm.
collisions, and the bigger red ones are non-injury collisions.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a bit. So, and I'm not surprised you mentioned Grand Prairie and Waverly, because I do hear about a lot of accidents along there, and I just don't understand. It's a good, it seems like a well-functional intersection, so I don't know how come there's accidents, but,
So,
yeah.
so the way the current contract reads is we currently have one intersection, we have 2 camera systems at that intersection. We're allowed to expand up to 7. We have not done that because that will require a lot more work. So we're asking is to be able to continue with the same agreement that we have. Any new intersections that we decide to add, if we decide to do that later, we'll come back to City Council for that. The ones where I would like to add happens to be on Highway 20, and there's a study that is involved in that in order to be able to get that approved through ODOT. I haven't talked with the city manager yet, but I'm thinking maybe at some point we can take some of the funds that have been coming in through PhotoSafe to try to fund that study to see if we can do something, especially at Santiam and Waverly. That's because there's so much volume through there, and you've got so many red light runners, and because of the volume of traffic, it's very difficult for us to even go out there and do enforcement. You almost have to have 2 officers. You have to have one to watch the violation and one to be able to pull somebody over, where if you had a camera system, it would automatically do that for you.
Yeah. So, you know, I remember, you know, back in 2008, and I think we started in 2007, about getting the, you know, the traffic, you know, for the photo lights, and it was just a very contentious issue. Many of you can remember, and people were very upset that we were, you know, going to go that route, and I never hear the complaints over, you know, the photo, you know, radar anymore, and I do think it has really kept that intersection on Queen and Gary a lot more safe, because we used to have a lot more accidents, you know, on that intersection. But
I can't come and
yeah.
say that, I mean, I know the violations of that intersection have been reduced, but I can't necessarily say that it's reduced a lot of the collisions. I mean, sometimes you'll have more collisions when you have camera systems. That's because you'll get more rear-end collisions, because they'll see the light and somebody will slam on their brakes and then they'll get rear-ended. But the goal here is to reduce injury accidents and to reduce serious injury accidents, where when you have camera systems, I believe that it helps cut down on those.
Yeah. And we got to think, even from 2008, you know, we've got a lot more population, a lot more cars, too.
Yes, and you have a lot more volume right now coming to those intersections.
Yeah. So, yeah. Questions? So, okay. If not, I think you do have a resolution that's on page 71.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay.
Mayor?
Questions? Yeah.
I had 5 people contact me about this. 1 loves it, 4 hate it. 2 of them were outside of the city, so I didn't realize that when I was talking to them. But if this is for, you know, if it lowers accidents, I think it's a great deal. If it doesn't lower accidents, I mean, can we move it to another place? I mean, at some point, I mean, we have the places where we have trouble. I mean, I'm all for, we're having injury accidents at wherever. Is there, you know, let's get those covered.
Yeah, there's a cost associated with moving the system, or if you leave that system there and add another system at another location, which I think eventually we would like to do, but where I would like to add it, where we're having most of the collisions,
Highway 20,
happens to be on Highway 20.
Yeah.
Well, we need a little bit more work done to see if ODOT will even allow that. I think my next stop would be Waverly and Santiam. I think that would be the one where we would need it, and that would be where I would like to have the first study done there.
Yeah, I go through there 3 or 4 times a day, and I don't think I've ever gone through there once and gotten stopped when I didn't see somebody run the light. It just is always. You could probably have 4 police officers there issuing tickets, you know. Okay, that took care of mine. Thanks.
Any other questions? Dick?
Not a question, but I've had people comment they avoid that intersection because they've gotten tickets and they didn't think it was right. So I plan to vote no on this.
Okay, Floyd?
Well, maybe have the chief or the officer explain once the camera goes off. There's a process.
Well, you brought me.
Yep.
So the process, what happens is that Redflex will capture that video feed. They put it into a queue system. They forward it to us. At that point, my traffic officer, who is Officer Eric Tress or Sergeant Ron Parker, will review those within a 72-hour window. And then when we review those, we have to, one, make sure there was an actual violation. We have to witness with our eyes, make sure they're crossing and they're running against a red light. We have to view the red light car, and then it takes a photograph of the driver, and we have to match up that driver with the DMV information that's on file. At that point, we approve it, and then it's sent out by Redflex. The driver gets issued the citation. At that point, they have the option of saying, that's not me. They fill out an affidavit, they send that into Redflex, who then forwards it back to us. We have to compare the photographs, and we'll dismiss the citation at that point. Or they can plead guilty or not, or they can pay the fine or plead not guilty. If it's not guilty, at that point, we take the video, we go to municipal court on the set date, and we have a hearing in front of Judge Scott. I've had several of those, but I've never, of all the traffic violations I've ever issued, there's never one Judge Scott has ever questioned. We review the video, and I've never had one question or come into play. It's obvious that they ran that red light.
So if a person says, not me, I didn't do it, you say, how do you challenge the video?
Actually, it works well. That happened to my daughter. So she had sold her car, and then she gets a letter in the mail with the violation, and so all she had to do was respond and show the bill of sale that was like 10 days before, and it was just dismissed. She didn't have to go to court or anything. But,
yeah, they don't have to go to court. They fill out the same form saying this was not me. At that point, we get it returned to our office. We review it. If we look at the DMV photograph, because we have access to that, and the photograph in the picture. Because when it goes through, it shows the video, and it takes 4 still shots. It shows the back license plate, front license plate, and then 2 of the front windshield where you see the person. When we're going through it, if we can't identify, if there's like they're blocking their plate, there's a glare, we won't issue that citation.
Yeah, I was amazed to see how well defined, it was on that photo. So, yeah, but, yeah. Okay. So, any other questions? You have a motion on the table, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, I think just one, so motion carried. All right, thank you. Okay, seeing the agenda, and I think I'm going to move up item H1, which is the Housing Fund disbursement. So we have our Lynn Benton Housing Authority and Albany Partnership representatives here, so they don't have to wait much longer, and also Ann and Bob. So this is your item. So, okay. Did you, Bob, were you coming forward? Yeah, this is on page 106.
Thank you, Mayor Canopa. So the city has a housing fund that's composed of repaid housing rehabilitation loans made with community development block grant funds. The housing balance is currently about $283,000, and it's considered program income, which restricts how the funds can be used. And the state has directed us to spend these funds as quickly as possible on eligible projects. During the February 22nd, 2016 council meeting, the council heard presentations from the Lynn Benton Housing Authority and Albany Partnership for Housing and Community Development regarding how those 2 organizations might use the funds if awarded to them. During that meeting, council asked staff to develop a recommendation on how to distribute the housing fund balance to one or both of those organizations that would directly respond to failing systems in the housing units owned by those 2 organizations. After reviewing more detailed proposals from LBHA and the partnership, staff developed a recommendation that's before you this evening, and that recommendation is that the Lynn Benton Housing Authority be given $42,000 and the partnership $240,819. As explained in the memo and attachments in your packet, that recommendation would fund all eligible activities proposed by the LBHA, with the remaining larger amount given to the partnership, which expressed the greater need. So that's the staff recommendation. Of course, you may choose to distribute those funds how you please.
Okay, questions? And there is representatives from the 2 agencies if you have questions too. But,
Does this need to be in the form of a resolution or just as
A motion.
Just a motion?
Yeah, there was no resolution to this, just a motion.
Just a motion, the money's there, and I think that we'll just, the idea is that we'll spend it this fiscal year.
I move that the money be dispersed as written on page 107 of our staff report.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made, and there's a second. And any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you. So, all right, thank you, Donna, thank you, Annie. So, all right, now we'll go back up to item DE, and this is adoption of the consent calendar. If there isn't any items to be pulled off this evening, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, now we go to page 101 and 102, and this is the intergovernmental agreement between Albany Police Department and the Greater Albany Public Schools for the provision of a school resource officers, which is a very valuable service. And we've got an outstanding staff that is our resource officers. Okay, looks like we got the chief and lieutenant again. Yeah.
Yes, Mayor and City Councilors. This is our last agreement expired in the last fiscal year. Our previous agreement was $40,000 a year, and that's been in place for several years. When Jim Golden took over, I was working with him to increase that amount. The standard to the state seems to be about 50-50. So he's in a 2-year cycle, so he didn't really have any extra money that much this year to add to it. So we came up with the plan to get to the 50-50 part in about a 4-year term and then continue with it from there. So right now we provide 2 SROs. We have one for West and all the feeder schools, and we have one for South Albany High School and for all the feeder schools for that one too. The city has been taking on the majority of the cost for this, so I was working with Jim to try to share some of the costs.
Okay, great. Questions? Bessie?
Chief, what did you say? You said it was West Albany and the feeder schools, and what was the South Albany and what else?
And the feeder schools. for South
Okay,
Albany.
so
we
each area of
We have
town.
2 officers, one
Okay.
primary for each of the high schools, and plus any of the calls that come in from the feeder schools they respond to.
Yeah, well, it's such an important position. You know, we talk about it at the WCJC all the time of how having that presence in the schools is just so important, you know, and not so much as like Gestapo, like here we are. It's more like getting to know the kids and letting them know that it's okay to talk to them if they need to, rather than be afraid of them. So I think it's great.
Great program.
I would move that we authorize staff to execute the intergovernmental agreement.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Great, thank you. Okay, next is appointment, and this is appointing Sam Flandy to the Albany, or to the Airport Advisory Commission. This is Councilor Kellum's appointment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Now we drop down to H2, and this must be Stacy's item. Is it in the back for the Police and Fire Facilities Construction Project? Request for pre-qualifications process.
Stacy got caught.
Yeah. I'm presuming it's yours.
You know, that's a very nice color red you've got there.
Yeah. Orange.
Orange. Go Beavs. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. The memo that was included in the packet is just a summary of the process that we went through to pre-qualify general contractors. The 4 contractors listed in the memo
are pre-qualified to respond to the invitation to bid for the police and fire station project. The bid is going to be, or the contract documents, the drawings, and the project manual are going to be provided to these general contractors on May 2nd.
Great. Okay, questions? Okay, so no action on this, just information?
Yep, just information.
So the bids are anticipated, they're due on the 21st of June, and we would be coming back, or you'd be coming back to council for award of bid?
It'll be the first meeting in July, which is July 13th.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it, so. All right, thank you. Okay, next is adoption of the strategic plan. And Jorge, you had, did a great job. I love having all the red text in this. It really stood out where I could see the changes.
I would like to take credit, but it was Laura.
Oh, it was. Oh, it was like, wow, I could really see it.
Your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mayor, Council, after the last council meeting, we regrouped and added all the changes that the council desired to incorporate in this strategic plan. So everything that was there as read is still there, and then we just went ahead and added additional changes that were requested. So instead of going and reading all these red texts, I'll just open it up for questions and see if there's anything that you have any questions on.
Okay. Questions?
So we'll get a cleaned up copy at the budget hearing. When we,
It actually appears in the budget documents.
So.
I just really appreciate the process that we go through. I mean, from years back when we used to do the goal-setting days, and we'd spend 8-10 hours a day and accomplish maybe 1 or 2 goals, and this just lays everything out. I think it makes it so much clearer for staff to really know what to focus on and to really know, what are those objectives, and it's just been a great document. So this is how many years now we've had it?
I think it's going on about 14 years now, maybe 14 or 15.
Has it been? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It predates me, so
Yeah.
it's been around. And more cities seem to be going to this approach, strategic plan. For years I was asked to go up and help the city of Astoria with their goal setting, but I worked myself out of a job because I told them I thought this process worked better, and so now they've gone to that. We don't need me anymore.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, a lot more cities are following, so it's great.
There's a component from that once this is approved, we take all this the current measurements and the ones that have been completed, and we add it to our dashboard on the city's website, so you can actually compare how we've been doing for the last 2 will be 3 years, in a graphical, visual way to compare it. So those will be posted for all 4 themes as a visual graphics for citizens to view.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Floyd?
Yeah, I think the plan is a good approach. My question is one of timing, and, we've got the draft budget coming to us very soon, so staff has spent several months presenting a budget, then we're looking at a strategic plan that affects the budget, and it's almost like, does the cart come first, does the horse come first? And it seems like the budget should follow the adoption of the strategic plan.
The strategic plan really guides the preparation. And granted, there's going to be some individual changes, but the goal is to get those individual changes done before the budget is completed. So.
Well, but
normally we do it and start it in January, so we've just been a little late this year.
And that's my point. Is in 2008, I guess, was an example when we started looking at some major changes in what we might have to do as a city. It affects some of the goals that we adopt in some of the projects. You can get to the point of arguing, well, I'm following last year's plan, but not recognizing the significant impacts to what's happening in the community. I think we ought to have the opportunity to have some input very early in the budgetary process about, are we on track? Are there significant issues we want to alter? And if so, then staff will prepare the budget that accommodates those changes. So I would just encourage us to bring this back, to the budget committee or to the council first, then the budget committee, or maybe in combination at our last meeting in November, if there's something, and then, because staff starts working on the budget in January or before.
Kind of give us an update of how this is processed, so we can use it as a future roadmap or something.
And things are good, things aren't going so good. We got something else happened in the community. Something's happened nationally that might influence us. So it's just a matter of timing is all.
All right. Is there a motion for adoption?
Move to adopt the strategic plan.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Motion carried on that. And boy, we're just moving along here. So business from the council. And Rich, anything this evening?
I missed getting to sing.
Is the what?
I missed getting to sing.
Oh.
I mean, they're going to be practicing for about another 9 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And you can't get to Salem that fast.
Yeah.
Well, I could, except the chief would come and, blue lights, red car, bad thing.
Okay. All right, Ray. Okay, Floyd.
Yes, I have one item. We had another incident at Spring Hill and Highway 20 the day before yesterday. Another truck, while it didn't flip, the load shifted and blocked the intersection, and the second truck became involved apparently, couldn't get around the first truck. And I tried to come to town at 5 after 12. Not that my trip was important, but traffic was backed up on Spring Hill past the railroad tracks and was backed up Highway 20 to the S-curves. Some discussion with community members and with staff. I think we ought to have a discussion with Benton County and ODOT to find out what we can do to limit the risk of the safety issues at that intersection. The truck that tipped over and the truck that the load shifted is directly adjacent to a bicycle path. It's directly adjacent to the sidewalk. And if you're coming over the bridge to get to the activator for the pedestrian walkway, you have to walk right through where those trucks tip over. So for me, it's an issue of safety for the pedestrian, bicyclist, and other people, and then the inconvenience that it causes our community. Yep. When the truck tipped over and lost their load, we were probably, that intersection was tied up for 4, 5, 6 hours. When they just had to wait for the forklift to reallocate the load the day before yesterday, it was tied up for an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think it's going to take all three jurisdictions to come up with what are the options and what's the impacts. During the construction of North Albany Road, we had the temporary detour that worked well. That may be one of the options, but I would ask council that we have Wes instruct the staff to initiate that discussion with Benton County and ODOT.
And I agree. So,
I would agree with that.
I had, Floyd and I were at the North Albany Neighborhood Association last week, and that was sort of a very major concern with the North Albany residents, because they get stuck in that gridlock, trying to get out, and just the amount of, safety and, emergency response time, but something needs to be done. So I think starting that conversation, and a serious conversation, I think is something that, we do need to be moving on that fast.
Well, ODOT is currently in the process of evaluating potential safety improvements from Spring Hill to Circle Boulevard on Highway 20. This is the terminus of that study, and it may be that we can incorporate something within that. I was at the MPO meeting this afternoon and had an opportunity to talk to our region director for ODOT, and she's very interested in having that discussion.
Yeah. So is everyone agreeable to that? Have staff start some serious conversations? So, yeah. Okay. All right.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So, all right, Bessie?
Nothing.
Okay, Bill? Dick? Okay. The only thing I had was that the Oregon Geology and Mineral, that we had sent the letter to see about if they would not, relocate out of the city, is State Representative Andy Olson called me today and said that he has been talking to many agencies and the person that's in charge for Ogami, and he said that now that they are kind of rescinding their decision. So it looks like they will be staying. It's not totally solid in writing, but it looks like they will be staying. So I think the efforts for the council to want to send that letter, I think, really helped. So, and help the employees that are employed in the downtown office. So thank you for taking that action on that. I also just want to thank you also for, on my other hat of Albany Partnership, for, and I know on Lynn Benton Housing Authority, for having the two agencies be the recipients of those, the old housing funds. So I think it'll be, dollars will be spent here locally and very much needed, and it's going to be an investment of capital improvements that'll last a good 20, 30 years for that investment. So thank you. Okay, that's it. Wes?
Just briefly, the Land Conservation and Development Commission will be meeting in Albany on May 19th. And one of the issues that Councilor Collins and I have talked about over the years, it actually came up during the course of the big look at Oregon's land development system, was the continuing constraints that have been placed on development inside urban growth boundaries since the land use laws were first passed back many years ago, and also making the continuing sort of trend to make it more difficult to have expanded urban growth boundaries. So more restrictions without, the original deal was development inside an urban growth boundary was good, development outside was bad. But that deal has sort of been violated by the fact that a lot of new restrictions have been imposed inside urban growth boundaries. So Councilor Collins asked that perhaps we mention that again, because I made that point a number of times over the course of the big look, and nothing really happened with it. To talk to DLCD about that.
And in regards to like wetlands, you're saying how it's,
well,
cumbersome
wetlands
process,
are killing us. I mean, almost every piece of land that we have available for development in the city is now a wetlands, and so that becomes a huge development constraint. Riparian zone protection, just hillside development. There's a whole range of things that at one time we believed were available for people to build on, and now aren't. And so at the same time, it's become sort of correspondingly more difficult to be able to expand your urban growth boundary to accommodate growth. So.
Yeah. So yeah, and with that meeting on May 19th, is Albany is sort of hosting the reception with the state. I mean, the state's going to be reimbursing to pay for the reception, but they would like to have it here. So it's at 5 o'clock, it's from 5 to 6, and we have our budget committee meeting afterwards. So they will be meeting during the day. We're taking them on some tours of Albany during the day, and then they'll have their kind of reception here at 5, and but then we'll have our budget committee meeting. So yeah, DLCD will be here all day, so in Albany. But.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to talk directly to the decision makers. We often end up talking to staff, but I'm not sure the decision makers hear the complexities that we're faced with at the local level. And so I think it's an opportunity just to make our point, saying that we would certainly like to have that discussion. We would like to make sure that all state agencies that are imposing the restrictions understand what the consequences are, and then we come forth with some kind of unified process. And as Wes said, if we're going to have additional constraints, our buildable lands inventory is going down, and supply and demand makes the prices go up. And so the cost of development in Albany is going to continue to rise. And if we're going to accommodate our ultimate build-out capacity, we're going to have to do something. And I think Wes has said it's McMinnville or Newburgh has been 17 years trying to amend their urban growth boundary. And that's just ludicrous. Yeah.
Yeah, and with DLCD, they're commissioned, so that's going to be the commission that will be meeting here, so, but Greg McPherson, who was, Hector McPherson's son, he's always been for years up in Lake Oswego, but they bought back to the family farm, so they're back actually in Albany address now, so they are back in Albany and out on their farm, so we're kind of fortunate to have him that's been involved with DLCD for many years, back in our region, so yeah, and he'll be there for that meeting. Okay, anything else, Wes? Okay, staff have anything? So, anything?
We will have an AURA meeting.
Yep.
Upon adjournment.
Right, so, okay, so we have work session May 9th and regular session May 11th, and with that, we are adjourned.